I've got a RZR 1000S. It's come up to its first oil change at the 25-hour mark. The normal interval for this unit is 100 hours. First one's 25. You need a couple of tools. Generally this is really easy to do. Polaris is really nice and they give you basically a box set of the oil and the filter, and it usually only takes about 15 minutes. So I'm going to go over this real quick just for the 1000S. This should be similar on 900S, 1000 XPs, etc. Okay, one of the first things you're going to want to do is have an oil pan ready and locate the oil drain pan or plug. And on the 1000S, that's actually going to be in the slotted area of the skid plate. It's actually right here. It is a X bolt. If you look just a little further back, there's another drain, and that's for the diff. So that's where you drain the differential fluid out. It's pretty easy to spot. When in doubt, just look for the crankcase. Make sure you're in the area of the crankcase and not the area of the diff to make sure you take out the right one. I'm fairly certain those are two separate size bolts. So if you've done it before, it's not going to be a big deal to get confused because you'll know what size driver to use. Okay, in order to do this, you'll need a, get the size for you here. It's going to be a 6mm hex. And basically you just want to remove the bolt, be ready with a catch pan. And that's it. Let that drain. You can go ahead and start on the oil filter up above. A lot of people actually prefer to just let this drain and actually cap it back off so you're not moving back and forwards. But I typically do both at the same time and then just put everything back, button everything back up. Okay, this is a big improvement, at least to me, from owning an 800S. The oil filter is actually right in the center behind the access panel. It's really easy to get to, as you can see. Typically you can just get this with your hands. It's the standard Polaris filter. It comes with a kit. All you need to do is pull it off, try to minimize your oil spillage, and make sure that you actually coat the gasket with oil before you put the new one back on. Okay, we've got the oil filter off. I pretty much handed it straight down to the pan. The oil filter is kind of inverted, so you don't have a lot of leakage or any issues. The one thing to always check anytime you're taking an oil filter off is be very sure that the gasket actually comes with the oil filter and doesn't stay on the engine. If you mess up and you put that back on and there's two gaskets there, you'll have a big pop and all the oil will go leaking out on the floor. I speak to this on past experience on cars. You know, just make sure you pay attention when you're doing it. Here there's a little bit of leakage when you take the oil filter off. The oil does clean up. You can kind of see it there. And like I say, just make sure that you coat that surface before you put the oil filter on. Tighten it by hand, and you know, you don't want to put these things on super tight. You just want them tight enough to stay on. I usually tighten it hand tight and go about a quarter turn. Okay, we got everything buttoned up on the bottom. The one thing I will say is always check your oil pan. All the Polarises I've ever worked on have a little small copper crush ring that's underneath the drain. Make sure that you find that and put that back on. They recommend, you know, putting a new one on each time. I usually pick up a couple at the Polaris dealer because inevitably, especially if you're using a drain pan that has a big hole, falls in the hole and you lose it. And you can't run them without it, so it's good to have spares, and I usually change mine out about every 3 or 4 oil changes. and I've had no problems. These are the nice kits. If you go to the Polaris dealer or online or what have you, you can pick up one of their oil change kits. It comes with everything, and one nice feature is it comes with the exact right amount of oil. So all you got to do really is just put the filter on, make sure that you lubricate it before you put it on, pour on the oil, and you're done. I always double check and make sure that there's the correct amount of oil in the unit. Just remember that when you put the filter on, you'll need to crank it to get the oil filter in the filled up. On this one, you won't be able to pre-fill the oil filter. It's semi-inverted, and you'll never get it on without spilling oil everywhere. Okay, sorry for all the starts and stops. It's a little difficult trying to keep a camera around oil and dirt, so I'm trying to be real careful with the camera and just do this step by step. We'll put a little oil on the threads and on the gasket on the oil filter. Screwed it back on and went about a quarter of a turn past hand tight. It'll be easy to get off. It won't leak. If you really crank down on one of these, you're going to need an oil filter wrench to get it back off, and you run the risk of damaging something. One thing that I always do is I take a Sharpie. This one, and writing on black, I use a silver one. I always indicate what up is when I installed the oil filter. I'll put the month and year that it was changed, and I'll put the hours that I actually changed it at. It gives me permanent reference to know when to change the oil if you lose a little Polaris sticker, or you don't have access to the logbook at that particular moment. I'm hauling this thing around in a toy hauler and keep an oil change kit with me, and pretty much will change it whenever, exactly when it needs changed. But basically that's a good idea on any oil filter. Just kind of label what you've done, keep a record. All we like now at this point is just replacing the oil, checking it, and giving it a crank to check for leaks. Okay, we just finished adding the oil. One great thing on the newer machines is you basically have this access panel here you can pull out. You have a normal oil filter cap on a valve cover. Pop it open, pour the oil in. One kind of tip to keep from spilling it, you basically angle your oil here and just kind of watch it. You get really close to this oil, the air cleaner. Once you get it pouring and kind of get it close, you can just kind of dip it in. And you won't spill any oil. If you do, you can always put like a rag or what have you there. So really all that's left, I've already checked for any leaks and made sure that once the oil filter was filled up, I'm exactly on the upper dot, which is where it should be. And this being the first oil change, it actually does sound a little different. It's a little bit quieter at startup. So hopefully that continues. If you have any questions or have any comments, just shoot me a line. Again, thanks for watching the videos.